What's that? And this needs to be addressed. I know this is probably gonna offend a lot of people. I don't care because Devil May Cry 1, 2, and 3 got re-released. Assassin's Creed Rogue has been re-released, and no, I don't know if Capcom has plans to put Devil May Cry on the Switch, which they should do considering they're re-releasing this shit. And Ubisoft, so should you. You should put your games on the Switch just because you're re-releasing them. And this is the reason why I say this is gonna offend people because oh no, he's talking about PlayStation and Xbox again, and he's not bringing over the Switch into the conversation. But these games are right now not really announced for the Switch, and a lot of these games have not come to the Switch. And if you use your common sense here, it's legitimately PlayStation's fault. Not for the games not coming to the Switch, but for what I'm talking about here: ports, remasters, re-releases, definitive editions, all that shit. This generation falls on Sony's neglect and willingness to understand that backwards compatibility is a thing. It's a thing that is very important to people because they collect games, they collect past generations, and they don't let them go. PlayStation, Sony, I I I really believe that you guys think that oh we just released the PlayStation 4, which means none of our fans have a PlayStation 1, a PlayStation 2, or a PlayStation 3. That's what I'm starting to believe because you idiots at the beginning of this generation came out and said backwards compatibility is just not that important. We don't find a need to have it. While yes, you have the most first party games because you have the first, spot in consoles sold, you also have the most fucking ports. For any system that's been on the market as long as the PS4, you have the most fucking ports. You have the most fucking re-releases. And I wish I could say they were, a couple generations old, but a lot of them are not. A lot of them are only one generation old at best. I mean, Devil May Cry 1, 2, and 3, sure, that's fine. Um, but then you had DMC get re-released on this generation. You had Dishonored re-released. The Enzo trilogy re-released. These games are all one generation old. Even God of War 3, which was last generation's God of War outside of Ascension, got re-released this generation. All these games were last gen, and it's I've said this before. It's not like PlayStation is going, let's release those games that people might have not ever played. They're picking the games everybody fucking played. Who the hell didn't have God of War 3 if you had a PS3? Who? That was like the game to have until Uncharted came out, which, oh yeah, by the way, Uncharted 1, 2, and 3 re-released this generation in a pack, in a bundle pack. All these games are re-released. And none of these games are on the Switch. You bring up the fact that I don't want to bring the Switch into being a re-release machine. Because a lot of those games that you're like they're re-released have never been on a Nintendo platform. Name one Nintendo platform outside of Switch that Skyrim was on. Just go ahead. Name it. Doesn't exist. That's the reason why. That's the reason why I don't bring in the Nintendo Switch, because a lot of those games were never on a Nintendo platform. LA Noire. What console was what Nintendo console was LA Noire on? Go ahead, tell me, because I can guarantee you I know better than you. It wasn't on any. LA Noire did not come to the Nintendo Wii U. It wasn't on the Nintendo Wii. So it falls in a special category. LA Noire was last gen's game on the PS3 and the 360. Why the fuck is there a need to re-release that for the Xbox One and the fucking PS4? Because PlayStation neglected to add in backwards compatibility. I'll give you one for instance that you might not know. Backwards compatibility on the Xbox, the Enzo trilogy is playable. I know that seems like it's bullshit, but look at all the Assassin's Creed games that are backwards compatible. Assassin's Creed 3, Assassin's Creed Rogue, Brotherhood, 2, Assassin's Creed 1. Um, and what the fuck was the other one that Ezio was in? All those are backwards compatible, even though they've been re-released. Xbox makes more sense here because they, a thinking company like that. Well, we had the number one selling system of last gen, pretty much the entire generation, which means our fans have collected a fuck ton of games. Maybe backwards compatibility would be the smart move. That's simplistic thinking right there. Of course, it's a smart move because you know your fans are not going to go sell off their entire collection for a new dumbass console. That's just right here. Granted, it took them some time to get there, but still, it's smart thinking. PlayStation. You charge people for your backwards compatibility. It's called PlayStation Now. I've looked into it. It's just backwards compatibility with a few sprinkles of this generation in there, so people will stop calling you out on it. But it pretty much is. It's backwards compatible. The entire library of PlayStation Now is made up of yesteryear's hits. Do you not see the problem here? Nintendo, I wish I could bring them in here, but they're re-releasing their own IPs. They want to re-release Splatoon? Who gives a fuck? It's their own IP. They want to re-release Zelda Hyrule Warriors? Who the fuck cares? It was their own IP. PlayStation is seeing fit to bring everything that was on the PS3 over to the PS4. Everything, not just their first party titles, everything. They haven't gone to Konami and beat the holy hell out of them to get Metal Gear Solid 4 ported to the damn PS4. I don't know why. They really should. That's like one of the games that I would let slide. I would honestly let slide if Metal Gear Solid 4 finally got re-released on multiple consoles, because that was legitimately the only Metal Gear you couldn't play anywhere else. Every other Metal Gear is playable across the board. But I know, especially now, with Kojima not being there and Konami being a bunch of dumbasses, it'll never happen. And I know someone's gonna be like, "Well, this isn't entirely true. They've done this before, where they re-release so much stuff." No, not in this, not in this amount. No, I have a shit ton of consoles, and I can sit here and tell you they've never had this many re-releases on one generation. Okay. I don't know any other excuse for them other than, well, you know, PlayStation didn't want to add in backwards compatibility because Xbox honestly doesn't need all these re-releases because they have backwards compatibility. See what I'm saying? Now, if they were to release Devil May Cry, Assassin's Creed Rogue, Dishonored, and all them other fuck titles that have been re-released that are multiplat onto the Switch, okay, then there's a point. But a lot of these games are not coming to the Switch. Or at least we haven't heard anything about them coming to the Switch, so they're not anything special other than ports to beef up a library that's pretty much 50%, if not higher than 50%, of a lie. And I know that offends a lot of you out there because you all went out and you were gung-ho, Sony strong because you think, oh, it's got the better library, or oh, this or that. In reality, you bought it because Sony wasn't making you follow a bunch of bullshit ass rules where Xbox was trying to control everything. That's the reason you bought it. Because if you look at the laundry list of bullshit that comes with the PS4, you probably would have never bought it. But due to the fact that Xbox had fucked up in such a way at the beginning of this generation, you bought a PlayStation and you forgave those sins. You see what I'm saying? Not having backwards compatibility after having the PS3 generation was a major fucking mistake. A major fucking mistake. Look how many games came out during that generation that are brand new IPs. Just look at them all. You're telling me that all those investments that you made during that generation in buying those games, you can't just play on the PS4? You can't just play them? seems a bit fucked up. Seems a bit, just a tad bit on the they figured out a way to charge you to continue playing the games you've already bought side. And like I said, I know it's gonna hurt somebody's feelings. They're gonna get all in their emotions and be all, "You're just attacking Sony to attack them." No, I'm not. If these games were announced, oh, they're coming out for everything because they're third-party shared games anyway, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But the fact is, majority of these games have never been announced for Nintendo and also don't seem to be coming to Nintendo. They're sticking to the Xbox One and the PS4, which makes them an unnecessary need. Well, what if someone never played them? Again, this is where backwards compatibility comes into play really heavily. If PlayStation would have made backwards compatibility a thing, guess what? GameStop still sells PS3 games. So does Walmart. So does Best Buy. You can still buy the PS3 version of those games. If they would have had backwards compatibility, you could have already been playing these games because you have a PS4. If they would have added it in there, if they'd have been a thinking company and thought into the future just a little bit. I'm not saying their system isn't a good system and that they don't have some good quality games. I have a stack of them here for just this generation, but they are so heavily reliant on the re-release factor on the PS4 because Sony isn't that intelligent when it comes to long term. Okay? PlayStation Now is a service that unfortunately is not anything in subscribers worth a damn versus Xbox One's service. It's really not. Xbox One has a smaller list of games, but their service numbers look a hell of a lot better than Sony's. There's a reason for that. Because Xbox made a service that adds in a little bit of last generation and a lot more of this generation. PlayStation's is reverse. PlayStation's is 90 something percent, last generation, and only about 10% max of this generation. And PlayStation also charges you $10 more, even though, like I said, it's charging you for backwards compatibility, which is bullshit. They should not be doing that. And that's because they didn't want to add it in. All these games, all these bullshit ass fucking things are unnecessary. Rogue is re-released. Why? What the fuck was wrong with Rogue? Okay, if they changed mechanics in it and they took out the bugs and all that shit, okay. But here's the thing. A lot of these re-releases keep all those. Keep them all. They're not doing anything special to them. They're not adding anything spectacular to them. Like, I didn't see Assassin's Creed Rogue being previewed as PlayStation Pro or Xbox One X Enhanced. I didn't see that. It just said remastered. What exactly is the point of that? You know what I'm saying? So, at best, if PlayStation would have said, hey, we have backwards compatibility, if you get rid of your PS3, it's no big deal. You could play all those games day one on the PS4. We would not be seeing this many fucking releases. We really wouldn't see them. Okay? And like I said, you could make up whatever bullshit you want to about, oh, well, you need to bring Nintendo into this, or you need to bring in, Xbox in the... But here's the thing with Xbox. Xbox actually created a lot of their games that ended up on the 360 on the Xbox One, dumbing it down for the 360 version. That's different. That's so much more different than anything else. You see what I'm saying? So, like I said, I didn't want to bring Nintendo into this conversation because, again, these games are not going to Nintendo. Devil May Cry, I didn't see a Nintendo version of Devil May Cry. I didn't see a Nintendo version of Rogue. I don't see that. If it exists, show me. I don't see it. I've seen the preview for Rogue, and Nintendo wasn't on there. And I've seen the Devil May Cry. Nintendo wasn't on there. Nor was DMC, Devil May Cry, the one that everyone for some reason hates. Not on Nintendo. You see what I'm saying? So these games, and the reason I don't bring Nintendo into it is because they are purposely created to beef up a library for Sony, because Sony, even though they're getting more first party IPs, even though they're creating more games, just they don't have anything because they didn't think backwards compatibility was needed, when in reality it's needed. And hopefully the PS5 will have it and Sony will have learned something, but I'm not counting on it because Sony is too thick-headed and too damn dumb to ever learn anything. I mean, you're talking about a company who, you know, was forced to acknowledge a security breach. Had they not been forced to acknowledge it, do you think they really would have? I don't think they really would have, but they were forced. So they acknowledged it. You see what I'm saying? Um, you're talking about a company who willingly lets their portable devices just die. You see what I'm saying? That's the kind of company you're looking at. Oh man, the Vita is no longer in existence. That's because of Sony. That's not because people didn't invest in it. That's because of Sony and their screw ups. That's the kind of company I'm talking about. They don't think backwards compatibility is a thing. They don't see the need for their Vita to be supported. They don't acknowledge shit unless they're forced to. Seriously, this is the company we're talking about here, people. They can have all the greatest games in the world, but they make some pretty big fucking mistakes too. You gotta realize that. So, I just wanted to put this out there because I know a lot of people want me to talk about Nintendo and how come they have all these ported games and all that shit, when in reality, it's not as severe as PlayStation or Xbox One. It's not as severe. It's nowhere near as severe as PlayStation is. PlayStation's been on the market for four years now, and the amount of ported games to that system is really unnecessary. All they would have had to do to avoid all that shit is just put backwards compatibility in, and PS4 probably would have been the greatest console they ever released, but they gimped the fuck out of it due to non-backwards compatibility. Think about that. They gimped it. They really did. They screwed that system because of that. And you can think, that's not true. The PS3 didn't have backwards compatibility. In later versions, the backwards compatibility got taken out. But in the first model of the PS3, backwards compatibility was a thing. Because do you really think the PlayStation brand was ready to port over all the PS2 games? Are you kidding me? You know how many PS2 games there were? They were not wanting to port all those fucking games. The PS3 had way less than the PS2. So at that angle, looking at it from that angle, it makes sense for them to go this route because they're fucking stupid. Well, the PS3 didn't have nearly as many success stories as the PS2 did with the games. But the PS2 sold 155 million units. There's a reason for that, you fucking stupid ass company. Well, we don't see a need to add in backwards compatibility to the PS4. So everyone who invested in the PS3 has to get rid of their library because they can't fucking play it? That doesn't make any fucking sense. You see what I'm saying? And then you want to talk about the damn Switch. What about the Switch? What about the Switch? What about the Switch? What about it? It's porting over its own games. It's not porting third-party games to support a library. That's not the same. See what I'm saying? It could be, but it's not. Because the third-party games that are coming have not really been there before. See what I'm saying? Skyrim was never there. LA Noire was never there. If they get a GTA 5, GTA 5 was never on the Wii U. So I can't sit here and have the same conversation with you. I can sit here and be like, oh man, the ports that are on here, man, that's bullshit. Because I've already played them. That's the conversation I can have. But I'm not having that conversation because, honestly, I've not played a bunch of these games. That's the truth. So, it's a different kind of conversation. You see what I'm saying? Anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. If you want to, comment down below what you think about that on the whole need for all these damn re-releases due to Sony's neglect of understanding backwards compatibility, please feel free. We can talk about it all day. Because honestly, Assassin's Creed Rogue. If it wasn't announced for the Switch, there was no fucking reason to re-release that game. Um, there was no need to re-release Devil May Cry unless they were talking about for everything, which unfortunately they're not. You see what I'm saying? So I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna leave it at that because it needs to be said. Deuces.